Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You're listening to Outsized Returns. I'm your host, Samuel Austin Taylor, Sam T, Sir Sam T on all the social media channels available to you. So today, and we haven't recorded or released an episode in a few weeks, maybe a month or so. My job is I'm always trying to assist my fellow entrepreneurs and friends if they want to come on the show and promote their products or their services that are beneficial to you, the audience members. So for the audience members, that's the reason why we haven't released anything in a few weeks. But today we have a fantastic guest, and one guest that is really beneficial to you in multiple ways. So here at Outsized Returns, we're talking about real estate, investing, startups, and entrepreneurship. And I would say today we have not only an entrepreneur, not only a startup investor, but a way for you to benefit through investing from crowdfunding websites. We have Erik Young today, the CEO of Audios, and he's going to tell us about the product that he's launched on a site called Republic. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Republic.co, it's a site where you can invest in early age startups. Prior to the Jobs Act by the Obama administration, people couldn't invest in early stage startups unless they were accredited investors. And before we get into the weeds of that, it basically just means you make a lot of money or have a high net worth. And what that Jobs Act allowed you to do is it lowered the barrier of entry into some of these early stage startups. Think about, being a teacher and having enough money to invest in an early stage startup like Facebook. Now, there are a number of social media companies that failed before Facebook was successful, but having the ability to invest in those kind of companies is what we're here to promote sometimes. So I want to introduce Erik Young. Welcome to Outside Returns, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell the audience in your words about Audios.
So Audios is the first fully cableless speaker system. So think DJ speaker when you think Audios. And what's different is that for the past 40 years in this industry, you have to use cables. But by getting rid of the cables, one of the problems that we saw is that cables are expensive. They cost $1 per foot per speaker. So to put that in normal terms, for every speaker that you see around the building, the average cable is $100. So if you see 8 speakers, you can just multiply really easily and say that's at least $800 worth of cables, and that's cheap cables. The other issue that we solve is that setting up with cables are time consuming. I'm sure you've been to a wedding or an event and you saw cables run throughout the building. They have to tape it for safety. Going wireless or cableless, it reduces setup time by 80%. And then cables have to be replaced every year. So it's just like when you have a set of headphones and the earpiece stops working, you go to Best Buy and you grab a new pair of headphones. Well, they have to do the same thing because cables are often either damaged or they're lost. Or sometimes they're even unfortunately stolen. So that's the problem that Audios is solving. And the solution is literally building an automatic wireless network. The speakers automatically build their own wireless network and connect to each other, and they start streaming. You can connect 16 of them. And so that covers most events. It's a huge amount of events are covered by 16 speakers. Most events would use less than 16 speakers, of course.
Now, when you say events, what type of size events are you talking about? Are you talking about a barbecue, or are you talking about
so a barbecue event, you can get away with 2 speakers. You see a DJ here have the 2 speakers on either side of the booth.
Right.
But, bar mitzvahs, barbecues, conferences, 16 speakers can get you a very long way. Then you can have, like, for instance, I went to Afrotech. So at Afrotech, 16 speakers is not enough for the main room, but all the breakout rooms that you may have. At CES, you'll have breakout rooms. You'll have the main room, but anything that's involving like 1,000 people or less, or maybe 2,000 people, it just depends on the size of the building more so than the capacity.
Okay, gotcha. So tell me how you came up with this this idea, the problem. I mean, I think a lot of times when people see success, they miss the early stages of it because a lot of people don't have enough followers or they don't document it. And that's kind of why I wanted to have you on the show, because you just launched your crowdfunding campaign, but you've been at this for a few years now. So tell the audience about this idea and the problem that you're solving.
So, like you said, I've been at it for quite a while. Initially, when I moved to Silicon Valley, I have like at least 10 or 12 ideas. I met this guy who had been doing startups on his own, and he said, yo, just choose the easiest idea. So for me, this was the easiest, but arriving at Adios as it's presently constituted took a while, as you stated. So I think the first important information is that I'm following the Steve Blank method of building startups. One of my mentors is Andy Rachleff. Andy Rachleff is the creator of Product Market Fit. So a lot of people have, they don't really have it. I think Product Market Fit has been perverted by people putting their own twist on it. So I decided to go to the source. If you want to learn, you want to be a Jedi Knight, go to Yoda. Yeah. So I ended up getting connected with Yoda, and he teaching me the Force, right? Mm-hmm. So the reason why it took a long time was that initially I built the technology behind Audios. My vision was to build a Bluetooth speaker because when we hang out, whether it's at a basketball court, we go snowboarding or whatnot, all of my buddies would have their own Bluetooth speakers. And I was like, yo, it has to be a way for these speakers to connect to each other. Mm-hmm. And that was my goal. We'll have a house party, people just selecting the biggest Bluetooth speaker. So to try to condense the story, following the Steve Blank method is essentially the scientific method for businesses. And so you need to, you're seeking product market fit. So you build a prototype and you actually go out in the field and you have to validate the customer need. And so for the audience, so that you understand, if you're going to build a business from scratch with no cash, we're not Amazon, we're not Sony where we can drop 20 million on a new idea. You're going to start from its inception. You can only build a business if the customer need is mission critical or if it's a must have. And so that's what you're doing. So my first prototype, I built the Bluetooth speakers. You could connect 16 of them. It was really automated and cool. I was proud. I got out in the field and I found out that it was a nice to have. So the different need classifications, mission critical, must have, nice to have, and luxury item. Let me know if I'm going too deep, bro.
This is perfect. Go ahead.
All right, yeah. So the Bluetooth speaker, you have to be honest with yourself as an entrepreneur. So I was like, man. The other thing, so there was two reasons why Audios didn't become a Bluetooth speaker. The need was a nice to have, and I went to China and I sourced my parts and got the manufacturing set up and found out that the margins were too low. It would cost me at a low volume. The price for me to build it was the price that Bluetooth speakers were selling at Best Buy.
So the bubble speaker, was, I don't know, $200. Basically you search from the parts, building it, break even is basically $200.
Yeah. So you can't build a business. The margins aren't there, and the need isn't there to sustain you through, rough times. So then I came back, and that's the scientific method, right? You have a hypothesis, experiment, observation, you figure it out and you iterate again. So then I built what we call, there's no real name for it. It's called business audio. Before that, I built the smart speaker. So that's the voice controlled Alexa. I iterated, built that, made it so that it can use Google, the Google smart speaker and the Amazon. So it was, it was like voice control agnostic. The issue with that was that Amazon dropped their price to $99. So even though smart speakers and IoT is the wave of the future, the margins weren't there. Went back to the drawing board. Mind you, so the audience, that this is not like a month. Like when I build a new prototype, like I'm spending months to create a new prototype because the electronics have to change, the size of the speakers has to change, the interface has to change. The core technology is the same, but it's taking time. So the entire.
Now, were you doing this and working at the same time while you were building the?
Yeah, no, I've been on Audios full time. Just so you know, I'm a computer engineer, and so I was building everything myself, like the electronics, the firmware, the chips, figuring out the manufacturing and trying, like everything that you see came literally from my own two hands.
Okay.
And it's a strength, but it's a weakness in that I can't go as fast as a big company.
Right.
And so I abandoned that. The next one, and we call it business audio. There's really no such thing as business audio, but think about a bar, a steakhouse, a little small pizza spot, you know, a pizza joint, a coffee house. They use a larger form factor speaker. There is no official name for it. And so then we started to see a little daylight, right? And business audio, they were the speakers are about $299. The businesses have become accustomed to paying for installation. So in San Francisco specifically, it would cost about, and I know this is not normal because San Francisco is extremely expensive, but a 2-speaker system was about $2,000. And so we were looking at it like, oh, okay, maybe we can make something happen. But ultimately, when a competitor enters that market, the margins weren't high enough to allow us to survive. And so now I'm at what you see now, which is Audios. And had this not worked out, I would have abandoned the idea completely. The Steve Blank method dictates that you really figure it out. So the customer need for business audio, I think it's worth mentioning that it was a must-have. So a must-have is you can still conduct business. You don't really absolutely need it, but it's expected. So when you go on a steakhouse, you expect ambience. You go on a bar, you expect music. A bar can operate because they sell liquor, but the expectation is that they're going to have some type of music. So we were getting warmer. And then finally, with this product, I discovered by accident. I was just so happy helping my buddy Chad set up at a cigar bar. I say this is actually on my pitch at Afrotech. You know, I was helping my buddy Chad set up at a cigar bar in San Francisco, and he was short on help. So I went to help him, and we were setting up a DJ speaker system, and we were running cables. And I was like, man, bro, like, why you cheap, bro? Like, just go ahead and buy some wireless speakers, dog. And then that's when he was like, man, it ain't no such thing. I'm giving it to y'all raw. You know, on stage, I was like, I haven't found anything good.
and we are totally appreciative of that. So that was when the light bulb went off. You're at a cigar bar setting up your friend's DJ booth, and you're like criticizing him because it's too time consuming.
Oh man, it was hell on earth. And we had, because it was the dance floor, so we had to actually secure the cables, tape them down. It was tedious.
Yeah.
And so I was like, bro, man, I might have something that can solve this problem. Yeah. And he was like, for real? I was like, man, listen, check. I'm going to make these speakers wireless by next week. And he was like, yeah, I got an event on Sunday. So then I went home in the lab, took the speakers, and then I hacked the existing speakers and made them wireless. And the next week we set up and it was completely wireless. And we ran completely wireless for at least 2 to 3 hours, people on the dance floor jamming. And then I was in there just like, oh, yes. Yeah. But even he was like, bro, you got something here. Because I mean, and so set up what I did, you know, I'm always in engineer mode. So I set up, I timed myself. It took 10 minutes. But the last week, it took us like an hour and a half. And then it worked without a hitch. I was like, bro, he was like, bro, you got something here. So the need, right? Yep. So the problem Chad described was like, all right, Bluetooth isn't good enough. They don't even make Bluetooth DJ speakers for the most part. They have a big party one, but not a real DJ speaker. A real DJ speaker, you have to put out like 1,200 watts. So it's not the size, it's the volume. Right. So just so y'all classify, you can go to Best Buy and see a big old party speaker. That's a Bluetooth speaker. It's probably like 200 watts. That's not a DJ speaker, right? Right. And so, and then Wi-Fi won't work something like your Alexa, right? Because you have to set up a wireless network and deal with all of that foolishness. So, I was like, whoa, the need is there. So to conclude your question, I'm sorry it was long, but I know this is more like a technical podcast.
This is perfect, man.
So to solidify it, I have to be honest. And if you're building a company, you have to be honest. Don't fall in love with your idea. I hit the road. I hit up Andy. I was like, yo, Andy, I think we got something. And then I hit the road and I shadowed DJs in Houston, Atlanta, Vegas, Miami. And I took those prototypes and we set up. And I wanted to be absolutely sure that this wasn't just Chad's problem.
How did you come to being mentored by Andy Rachleff and Steve Blank? Now, for those who don't know, these are world-renowned entrepreneurs and venture capitalists. Andy Rachleff is a founding member of Benchmark Capital, one of the largest venture capital firms in the world. I mean, billions of dollars that they deploy every year to early stage startup companies. So just tell us a little bit about how you got connected to them.
So that's another, so a lot of times you have to earn your position. Nobody's finna talk to you. A lot of people don't trust individuals, especially Andy. So like, even I'm like a gatekeeper for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I earned the ability to talk to him. So I'll just give a little detail about Benchmark. So Benchmark, just to put it in perspective for everybody listening, Benchmark, I may be off by a decimal or something. I think Benchmark owns 21% of eBay. They own it's 11% or 12% of Uber. Just the portion of Uber that they own is $7 billion by itself. Mm-hmm. Andy is the co-founder of Benchmark, is 4 of those. So I liken it to Jordan, Kobe, Bron, right? Mm-hmm. Andy is in the Jordan era. Yeah. They the OGs of venture capital. Mm-hmm. So even like the guys that are hot now, Andreessen Horowitz, like a lot of the guys that are hot now still look at them like, yo, this is like the level that I want to get to. So I just want to place that. Also, they are thought leaders. A lot of us are following these guys, but we don't even know because we don't do the research to figure out where does that come from? Mm-hmm. What is product market fit? Who created that term? So when I said that I'm following the Steve Blank method, the Steve Blank method gave birth to the lean startup. Mm-hmm. So when I came to Silicon Valley, everybody was the lean startup. And I'm like, all right, cool, bet. I read the book. I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel like I had the tools. Mm-hmm. But the 4 steps to the epiphany is the original book. Mm-hmm. That's like, and the lean startup, and with no offense, is more like Cliff Notes. So the 4 steps to the epiphany is, we call it a cookbook. It's breaking it down step by step. If you follow those steps, you can build a business, right? Because you can only go from chapter 3 after you completed chapter 2. Mm-hmm. And then you go to chapter 4 after you completed chapter 3. And right. if you don't, you keep iterating. You in this scientific method loop. Mm-hmm. So with Andy, I met Andy through his CFO, Ashley. So mm-hmm. I met Ashley based on the hustle. So when I first got to Silicon Valley, I had a couple of dollars, but I was not prepared for the expense, how expensive it was.
Yeah, it's a sticker shock to any. Where'd you come from?
Yeah, so when I got here, it was like $3,000. I think it was $3,000 for a 1-bedroom apartment in San Francisco. I live in San Francisco proper. Like $4,500 for a 2-bedroom. So I needed to solve that problem, which is how I'm gonna sustain myself in San Francisco and go all in full time. So that first week, because I used to work for HP. So that first week, I went to like a little HP party, not a party, but a picnic at Golden Gate Park or whatever. And I met up some Asian girls. They still my home girl, Julie and Ginger and Christine. And so Julie was an HP employee. So then she introduced me to her roommates. That was them. And then they told me about this thing called Airbnb. And it's gonna connect the dots to Andy. So I was like, yo, what's Airbnb? They was like, oh yeah, you could just rent your room, whatever. And so I was like, how much you make? She was like, oh, about $3,000 a month. I'm like, what? $3,000 a month? Hey, yeah. But that's the number that I'm looking for. So I was like, man, you lying. So then I told them to pull up their account. They logged in, and I was like, man, they hitting for $3,000 a month. Mm-hmm. So then now I have a street background, making money all kind of ways, like not just like necessarily illegally, but I'm that dude who know how to hustle for sure.
You're an entrepreneur. There's nothing wrong with that. Your entrepreneurial upbringing and story is different than somebody selling lemonade stands and
yeah. So what I did was I made an assumption. I was like, I bet. So this I'm all right. So to give you a date, I came 7/6/2015. I got a 5-bedroom house, 7/11/2015. Mm-hmm. And so my landlord wasn't really with it. They was really racist. When I say racist, I mean the landlord said no black guys. Mm-hmm. That's how they was like, no black guys. And his wife was like, you can't say that. But I was like, man, this house is the lick. this house finna get me that paper. And so I just ignored that. And I had a bunch of cash on me. And I was like, man, they trying to move in next month. I could move in tomorrow. Here go your money right here. And it's like, no, he didn't want to mess with me. And then they finally hit me back and let me move into the spot. So long story short, I got that spot. I started making, I think that first month I made like 7,600 that first month. Then I took the proceeds from that and furnished the crib. And then I hit for like 9,200 the next month. I started making 10 grand a month for the next 5 years. And so that was how I was able to finance the Airbnb. How I met Andy is that Ashley was renovating her house. So she needed for her family somewhere to be for 2 weeks. So my Airbnb was a 5-bedroom. So it was upstairs where I live, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. Downstairs, it was a completely separate unit, 2-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. Upstairs was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. So she came in, and I'm accommodating to my guests or whatever. Her husband then was into sports. I told him, yo, man, just come upstairs, and watch the game. So her husband, her son come up watching the game. We chopping it up. On week number 2, she asked me what I do, and I told her about my startup. And so she was like, all right, cool. If you need any resources, you want to know about startups, hit me up. So initially, me and her established a relationship where she got to know me. She was like, this is a cool black dude, whatever. She introduced me to my first advisor, who was Jonathan Speed. He a black dude. He think he my daddy. One day he gonna hear this. I'm talking about, bro, I have a meeting with Jonathan. I'm like, man, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Like, he don't know how to separate, but I know Jonathan on my team, though. But he's so after I built enough trust, and she saw that I follow instructions. So one of the things about having a mentor, it cannot be a one-sided situation. If you want a mentor, you absolutely need to be of value to them in some kind of fashion. So I'm always available if they need help. I used to be baking and stuff, cookies and all that, because I got a sweet tooth. I'll drop off a sweet potato pie to the crib. You know what I mean? We'll do beta breakers running that marathon thing together. Like, I'm a part of their life. And so then now they like, I bet. And it got to be genuine. It can't be fake, because people can feel fake. So at some point, I don't even remember, she was like, man, Eric, I'm going to introduce you to a good friend of mine. And he might really be able to help you and guide you. So that was Andy Rachleff.
And that introduction is worth more weight than it's priceless, because I mean, without it, who knows where. I'm not trying to speak for you, but that introduction has a compound effect that's so positive for audios that it's going to pay off, 10 years from now, whether, this business is successful or not. It's that beneficial to know people in those types of circles. I didn't want to cut you off. I wanted to ask you, you briefly mentioned you were at HP when you went to the party, and that's how you got introduced to Ashley. Were you working at HP here, or was it another place?
No, so that's how I got introduced to Julie, Ginger, and Christine.
Okay.
Those my Asian homegirls to this day. Like, we like this, cool, like solid. I was working at HP in Houston. I had already left HP, but I was still connected. So when I met them, I was not working for HP. I had already left HP, but because I was the previous employee, I knew them. So It was people that were at the picnic that I was cool with. So that's how I linked up with them.
Gotcha. Now, you're Mr. Patents on Instagram. Tell everybody about your patent experience and how many patents that Audios has with this technology. I think it's one of the key differentiators.
My patent went up last month. My patent count went up last month to 6. Okay. I got one pending, and then we got some more that we're gonna file. Patents are expensive, so my limitation is cash, not idea.
How expensive? Tell us. So
the average, if you really want to protect it, it could cost you like $50,000 a year. That's a single patent. The fees and all of that is trivial. It's nothing, but it's the filing fees. It's the attorney fees, and then it's also filing abroad. So when you you have to choose your region. So you say, all right, I want to protect it in Asia. I want to protect it in Europe. That's what started building it up, because it might be like $6,000 in China, in Asia, probably like 8 grand, 7 grand in America, I think. Then you see what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
every region is what started making it expensive. And them
Yeah.
fees don't never stop. Every year they keep rolling and they keep adding up. So I call myself Mr. Patents because my homeboys call me Mr. Patents. So basically at HP, I got that. I wanted to maintain who I am, a boss. And I'm saying that like humbly, meaning like, I'm not saying a boss like I'm better than somebody. I'm saying that I'm a person who have become accustomed to dictating my own life, making my own plays. Like, so not working for somebody. So when I'm saying a boss, I'm saying it from a business standpoint. And so when I got into corporate America, my desire was to start my own business because that's where I feel most comfortable. So my goal was, I was like, man, how am I gonna get off? I call it the plantation. But so I'm like, brother, man, how am I gonna get off the plantation, man? So I was like, I gotta increase my skill set to the point where I'm comfortable being out on my own and innovating as an engineer. So my idea was to start filing patents. And so I started filing patents. At first, it was extremely difficult, but I began to average 1 patent granted per year. And so eventually my homeboy is like, man, you Mr. Patents, but I ain't calling you by your name no more. You Mr. Patents. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I like the sound of that. So then I went ahead and just like, they was like, man, you might well change your name, but ain't no Negroes got patents. And what I didn't know, this what blew my mind. Like my homegirl, Andrea, she brilliant too. So Andrea hit me with a statistic last week. It said, I got to look at my text message. It said, it's 6 patents per million Black people. That's our patent rate. For every 6 patents, like for every million people, there's only 6 patents coming out of a Black person. It said for other races, it's 249 patents per million person. So I'm like, man, it ain't nothing but like 40 million of us. So in America, right? Yeah. So think about how low that patent count, dog.
Right.
Like if it's only like, I don't know the right number, but it's like 40 million of us. So I think if you could get a patent and you Black, you definitely a part of a very small group.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. It's I think, I touched on the compound effect, and I think about things from a long-term point of view, like what is going to happen today or what I do today is going to affect me in 2030 and 2040 and 2050. That's a byproduct, in my opinion, based on the STEM resources or you're an engineer. I'm not an engineer. I have a financial background, but that's, I think, a byproduct of the lack of African Americans in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And hopefully, and we're starting to see some change in those numbers. That will be vastly different in the next 30 years of our life. Hopefully that number will 10x, hopefully even 100x, because there's a lot of problems that need to be solved through technology, whether we do it or not, that are going to happen and shape the lives and generations of future African Americans and, people in general. So congratulations on having 6 audios.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it could be more. I don't. Some of the patents that were being when I left HP, they probably dropped off. I don't know what happened to them because I don't have visibility. Like the patent attorneys usually hit you up and be like, yo, clause number 778. Like, what is that? So none of them not there. Some of the patents that were in the pipeline probably dropped off.
Right. Tell everybody about your crowdfunding campaign on Audios. For everybody, you can go. I don't know if you're listening, on Apple Podcasts or any of the podcasting sites, you can go to republic.co/audios and view Erik's campaign. He's already raised over $100,000, and he has over 100.
The
first week. So tell everybody about the campaign.
Yeah. So with Audios, the campaign, of course, like you said, republic.co/audios. Audios is spelled AUDIOS. And so I don't know what you want me to talk about the campaign. Like the investment start at only 100. I would prefer if you got the cash, just hit me on that next tier.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think about with crowdfunding, you can invest whatever amount as long as it's greater than the minimum. But I noticed that people invest according to the perks.
So tell us about the perks.
Yeah, so I said $100, then 250, but you can invest 107 or 200.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can if you can invest more, definitely that'll be great. We raising funds so that we can pay for manufacturing and execute our go-to-market strategy. We are very strong in our belief that we have product market fit because of the work that I did when I went out in the field and I verified that this was an industry problem. So that's what your money would be used, it would go towards. We also have patents. I just want to explain. So we have patents that can be licensable. From a VC standpoint, from a valuation standpoint, in the future, if licensing our patent is in our future, that would increase our valuation because we would be generating revenue from potentially a huge vendor. So we already had one meeting with a very, very a global 500 corporation about licensing one of our patents. And then they wanted to follow the meeting, but we wanted to wait until we had a few more patents granted because we want to present them a package. So a deal like that could potentially put us in a position like Dolby. A lot of people don't know that Dolby Digital, they make money through their license and their technology. And we want to be in that position where we're not only building products, but we also getting paid on the side.
Now, this is not a donation. Like if I give you $100 or $1,000 as a part of your crowdfunding campaign.
Oh, you're going to own a piece of Adios. So when you invest, it's an investment. It's an investment. Everybody's coming in under the same investment terms. Andy Rachleff and the creator of Guitar Hero set the terms. So they are my lead investors. Guitar Hero is the product guy, right? He understands how to manufacture a product and get it in the Best Buy and stuff. And then Andy is the finance guy, the benchmark capital. So Andy could potentially help us have an exit. When you investing in tech, it all boils down. Are you going to IPO or are you going to exit? So for me, strategically, I wanted to get those two options in play at the beginning of our journey. So when you invest, if you invest, you're going to get $100 worth of stocks. If you invest $200 or $250, you're going to get $250 worth of shares.
And some items and some swag as well too. You know.
Yeah. So to get the swag, that start at the $500 mark, you'll get Adios. So I went and already sourced the stuff. So you'll get like fitness gear, like yoga pants and a top, and it's gonna say Adios Investor. You get like the steel sports bottle that keep the temperature, stuff like that.
Yeah.
No matter what tier you jump in, you're gonna get a discount if you ever buy some Adios speakers. Once you start getting higher up into the thousands, then you're gonna get free speakers and all the memorabilia also.
Can you touch on some of the challenges with picking Republic versus Seed Invest, WeFunder, some of the other crowdfunding campaigns? And also, what would you caution your other fellow founders and entrepreneurs when thinking about a crowdfunding campaign, whether that's Republic or Seed Invest or any of the others?
Yeah, so WeFunder, Republic, I got approved for all of them. And then so for me, I'm still an engineer at heart. So I created a spreadsheet and then I went line by line, a comparison chart looking at the pros and cons. I ultimately ended up choosing Republic because they had a larger user base and the user base was sophisticated. And so strategically, because Andy is a actual successful VC, my hope is that those angels who are aware of him will feel comfortable investing in Adios at a larger dollar amount. That may not come to fruition, but that was our hope because the companies that Andy invested in became billion-dollar companies, and that's just the reality. Like they have a huge portfolio. We just named two of the companies. So WeFunder was dope. WeFunder is really great for if you're pre-revenue like us. So WeFunder in actual reality is a better fit for Adios than Republic from a standpoint that Republic companies are post-revenue. Republic made an exception for us because of some of the early indicators, the indicator of product market fit. We had very, A-list investors. So that kind of qualified us, but Republic is more for companies that have traction. Think Shark Tank. Republic is the counterpart of like a Shark Tank if we're talking about crowdfunding. They want to know what's your revenue, what's your growth rate. So Republic is more strict in terms of who they allow on a platform. WeFunder also evaluate you, but WeFunder is more lenient for, and they're really great for bringing customers in. I mean, posting companies that may not have generated revenue, but they have indicators of success. I will say this about WeFunder: the customer service was next level. I can't remember the dude's name. I think his name Travis. Like some of the best customer service that I ever had. Like his customer service was so good, I was about to ignore the data. I was like, man, I even gave him props. Like, bro, you handling your business like you're doing really well for y'all platform, because and any questions that I have, you on top of the game. So the other platforms they just weren't really on my radar. Right?
Yeah, understandable. What does success look like, for audios? You touched on there's three ways that, I think there's three ways that a startup can be successful. And there's some others that are maybe successful, but maybe not as successful as people may want them to be. So what does success look like to you?
Success. So if you have a startup, success literally means that you have an exit or an IPO, period. If you're going to invest in our company, you want to cash out. And the only way for you to cash out is for us to sell the company or go on the stock exchange to your initial public offering. That's what success is. So it's cool if we make money. Now, a low bar for success is that if we generate enough revenue and we just stay in business, but ultimately we need to pay our investors. So success for me personally is that everybody put their trust in me. I'm able to deliver and cash them out. Right. That's my personal goal. I feel personally responsible for people who invest in audios.
Well, I like to hear. So if you're looking for a CEO that is mission driven, that is trying to solve a problem, that has product market fit, go to republic.co/audios, AUDIOS. Where can people find you? We talked about Mr. Patents. I don't know if you want to share, any other handles or email or anything like that. But
so to be honest, I'm not really a social media dude, but I have an IG because I need an IG. You know what I mean? So
yes. Why aren't more founders and entrepreneurs social media people? Like, that's why I have to drag people onto the show, because I need you to articulate, not in Finglish or not in BC talk, but in plain English, why people need to back your company, why people need to invest in your idea. People need to hear that story, man.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, I'm just low key and private, right? So
yeah,
I just don't like people in my game room. But what I started noticing, I was doing myself a disservice because people didn't know that I built the speaker. They think it's somebody else did it. Like, no, this is me.
Yeah.
When you look at audios, you seeing these two hands and this brain going to work.
Yeah.
So I started to post just to kind of and I'm still not doing a great job, but I started to post just to kind of show this journey and whatnot. And so the only social media that I actually use is Instagram. It's Mr. Patents. So MrPatents. So Mr. Patents. On my Facebook, I'm not going to add you, because the only person that I add on Facebook is if I actually know you. If I ain't sit down and talk to you, I can't remember you, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So
you'll see that I only probably got 700 people, but almost every single one of those people, I knew them somehow, some way.
Yeah. Well, everyone, thank you for listening to Outsized Returns this week. Erik, we thank you for thank you for coming on to the show as well, too, telling us about audios, your experience here in Silicon Valley. And we hope that you have a successful campaign, and we hope to hear from you soon as well, too, man.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. And if y'all want to support, definitely go to republic.co. The campaign will be active. I forget how many days we have, maybe 140 days, but the sooner the better, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care, everyone.